73 bikers stormed a Long Island hall. Baseball bats, knives, guns, 1 dead, 10 wounded. This wasn't random violence. It was a calculated military-style operation ordered by 13 men known only as the Mother Club. They call themselves the Pagans. Law enforcement calls them one of America's big 4 outlaw motorcycle gangs. And unlike the Hells Angels who spread worldwide, the Pagans did something different. They decided to own every inch of the East Coast. This is the story of how they did it. Main script: Prince George's County, Maryland, 1959. Lou Dobkin, a former Navy medic, gathered 12 friends, 13 men total. They wore blue denim jackets with embroidered patches and rode Triumph motorcycles. No violence, no criminal empire, just guys who love to ride. The Pagans Motorcycle Club started as nothing more than the weekend warriors looking for camaraderie on the open road. By the early 1960s, something shifted. The club needed structure. They drafted a constitution, established ranks, and elected their first national president. The culture changed dramatically when John Marin took control. But Marin wasn't just any biker. He was the president of the Sons of Satan Motorcycle Club, a central Pennsylvania outfit with over 100 members controlling Lancaster County. When the Pagans began expanding northward into Sons of Satan territory during the mid-1960s, tensions flared. A territorial war seemed inevitable. Instead, something unprecedented happened. Moran met with Pagans President Fred Dutch Burhans. They became allies. Moran made a strategic decision that would reshape the entire East Coast biker landscape. He and select Sons of Satan members patched over to the Pagans. The rest of the Sons became a support club under pagan oversight. They still exist today wearing a P patch on their vests to signal their allegiance. John Satan Marin became the Pagans' national president in the late 1960s. This marked the organization's transformation from recreational riding club to criminal enterprise. The violence exploded. Moran restructured everything, creating a corporate-style hierarchy that law enforcement had never seen before in motorcycle clubs. At the top sat the Mother Club, always numbering exactly 13 members. These weren't chapter presidents. These were the architects of a criminal organization spanning multiple states. The Mother Club made all major decisions. They appointed chapter presidents. They authorized new chapters. They approved every tattoo members received. They even determined who could leave the club, and members couldn't simply quit or retire. You were pagans for life, unless expelled. Losing your motorcycle meant expulsion. Losing your colors meant expulsion. The rules were absolute. Under Marin's leadership, membership skyrocketed to nearly 5,000 members by the early 1970s. The Pagans dominated the Mid-Atlantic region completely. They were the only major outlaw motorcycle gang operating from Maryland to New York. No competition existed. Law enforcement reports from this era describe the Pagans as having ties to La Cosa Nostra, the Italian-American mafia in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and New York. Pagans members acted as muscle for organized crime families, enforcing gambling debts and collecting loan payments. The club's patch told their story. A Norse fire giant named Surtur, wielding a flaming sword while sitting on the sun. The image came from a Jack Kirby illustration in Marvel Comics' Journey into Mystery, issue 97. Above Surtur, the word Pagans appeared in red, white, and blue. Below it, the letters MC for Motorcycle Club. But unlike every other major motorcycle club in America, the Pagans refused to wear a bottom rocker, identifying their specific chapter location. This deliberate choice frustrated law enforcement for decades. Police couldn't determine which state or city a pagan belonged to just by looking at their vest. The early 1970s golden era couldn't last forever. Moran was convicted of ordering a hit on a rival motorcycle gang leader and sent to prison. Federal RICO prosecutions throughout the 1970s and 1980s decimated the Pagans' ranks. By 1989, the New Jersey State Commission of Investigation estimated only 40 to 60 active members remained in that state alone. The once mighty organization seemed broken, but the Pagans never truly died. They regrouped, they adapted. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, they developed a new expansion strategy, patching over smaller clubs. When a smaller motorcycle club faced pressure or wanted protection, the Pagans would absorb them entirely. Members traded their old patches for pagan colors. This allowed rapid growth while maintaining centralized control through the mother club. The practice became so effective that it dominated pagan expansion from the 1970s through the early 1990s. The Pagans also established a network of puppet clubs and support organizations. These smaller groups distributed drugs, gathered intelligence, and carried out tasks that kept full members insulated from direct law enforcement scrutiny. Women, though considered below, even dogs in the Pagans' internal hierarchy, according to seized bylaws, played crucial roles carrying information and sometimes drugs for the organization. The structure was sophisticated, deliberate, and highly effective. March 24, 1974. The Philadelphia Custom Car, Speed and Cycle Show at the Philadelphia Civic Center. Pagans confronted members of the Breed Motorcycle Club. Fists turned to gunfire. 2 pagan bikers and a bystander were shot and injured. This public display of violence signaled the Pagans' willingness to fight anywhere, anytime. July 17, 1994. Hackettstown, New Jersey. At least 8 Pagans arrived at a charity picnic organized by Tri-County Motorcycle Club. Their mission was intimidation. They wanted local clubs to align with the Pagans to create a larger power base, preventing the Hells Angels from establishing themselves in New Jersey. A fight erupted. Fists escalated to knives, then guns. When the violence ended, Pagans Glenn Ritchie and Diego Vega lay dead from gunshot wounds. Pagan Ron Locke and Tri-County member William Johnson suffered gunshot injuries. Tri-County member Hank Reiger had his throat slashed. The message was clear. The Pagans would kill their own members if it meant preventing the Hells Angels from gaining territory. The rivalry between the Pagans and Hells Angels defined much of the late 1990s and early 2000s. Long Island, New York had been pagan territory. Then in the late 1990s, federal prosecution sent much of the Long Island chapter to prison. The Hells Angels saw an opportunity and began expanding their presence. They absorbed duck clubs, smaller support organizations that operated under Hells Angels leadership. The Demon Knights in Ronkonkoma, the Wicked Wheelers in Island Park. The Hells Angels were moving in. The Pagans' response was swift and brutal. February 23, 2002. Plainview, New York. The Vanderbilt Catering Hall hosted the Hellraiser Ball, an indoor motorcycle and tattoo expo, sponsored by the Hells Angels Long Island chapter. The event was open to the public and featured blues bands, porn stars, motorcycle exhibits, and tattoo contests. Approximately 1,000 people attended. Around 4:15 in the afternoon, roughly 90 to 100 Pagans from Pennsylvania, Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, Ohio, and other states arrived in vans. The attack was military precise. The Mother Club had directed out-of-state chapters to crash the event in a coordinated show of force. Some Pagans had written wills before departing. Federal prosecutors later revealed that a note found inside a Pagan's van read simply, "Kill, kill, kill." Dozens of Pagans rushed through the doors armed with daggers, baseball bats, and firearms, including an Uzi machine gun. The Hells Angels fought back. Gunfire erupted. 10 people were wounded. 4 suffered gunshot wounds. 5 were stabbed. 2 people had heart attacks from the chaos. Pagans member Robert Rutherford, a 51-year-old U.S. Postal Service employee from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, was shot dead. 73 Pagans were arrested that night. They were charged with federal racketeering, conspiracy, assault, and firearms violations. Among them was Dennis Rooster Katona, identified as the National Sergeant-at-Arms who helped lead the attack. The federal complaint was clear. This was a racketeering enterprise using violence to control territory. 2 weeks later, retaliation came. A pagan-owned tattoo parlor in South Philadelphia was firebombed. The war had begun. In 2005, the Pagans allegedly killed the vice president of the Hells Angels Philadelphia chapter while he drove his truck on the Schuylkill Expressway. Later that year, the Hells Angels closed their Philadelphia chapter entirely. Law enforcement interpreted this as a strategic retreat. The Pagans had successfully defended their territory through overwhelming violence, but federal authorities had seen enough. October 2009. a federal grand jury unsealed a massive 44-count indictment, charging 55 Pagans members and associates from 8 states: West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, and Florida. The charges range from racketeering and conspiracy to commit murder to kidnapping, extortion, and drug trafficking. National President David Keith "Bart" Barbaito from Maryland and National Vice President Floyd Diamond Jesse Moore from West Virginia faced RICO violations. The indictment detailed their criminal enterprise. In March 2003, Moore directed members to travel to Huntington, West Virginia, where they restrained and beat a Road Disciples Motorcycle Club member, attempting to extract information about the club's president. Moore wanted money and threatened to shut down the Road Disciples entirely if they didn't comply. In September 2005, Moore and other members conspired with a prison guard to kill an inmate suspected of cooperating with law enforcement. Moore also ordered a murder to help the president of a local Avengers Motorcycle Club chapter. The indictment painted a picture of a sophisticated criminal organization operating across multiple states with absolute authority concentrated in the mother club's hands. In June 2010, Barbaito pleaded guilty to racketeering. He was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison. Dozens of other members followed with guilty pleas and convictions. Once again, federal prosecutions had crippled the organization, but the Pagans proved resilient. By the mid-2000s, they launched what they called the Blue Wave Expansion Initiative. Keith "Conan" Richter, who became national president in 2018, orchestrated an aggressive campaign to increase membership and establish new chapters throughout the East Coast. The Pagans added a new element to their colors, an East Coast bottom rocker replacing individual chapter locations. This wasn't just symbolic, it was a declaration. The Pagans claimed the entire eastern seaboard as their territory. The New Jersey State Commission of Investigation documented dramatic growth. In 2016, the Pagans had 10 chapters in New Jersey. By 2019, that number had grown to at least 17 chapters with approximately 300 members statewide. The national membership reached roughly 900 full-patch members across more than 40 chapters. The chapters expanded into Bergen County and other territories traditionally dominated by the Hells Angels. Violence predictably increased. April 24, 2018, Newark, Delaware. A gas station in broad daylight. Surveillance cameras captured 3 men approaching Hells Angels member Jeffrey Shank. Robert "Hellboy" Durand, a pagan, attacked Shank with a baseball bat in full view of innocent bystanders, including a woman with 2 small children. Shank collapsed near his motorcycle. The attackers fled. Durand was convicted and sentenced to 4 years in prison. Law enforcement viewed this as part of the Pagan strategy to intimidate Hells Angels and prevent their expansion into Pagan territory. The expansion continued westward. By 2020, federal indictments showed Pagan chapters operating in Pittsburgh, with members trafficking drugs and firearms across Pennsylvania and Ohio. Christopher Lamar Baker, a national leader holding the rank of 13, meaning one of only 13 national leaders, was convicted in September 2023 for methamphetamine distribution, firearms trafficking, and money laundering. The drug trafficking organization he directed distributed kilogram quantities of methamphetamine from West Virginia, South Carolina, and Georgia into North Carolina using a complex network of Pagans members across multiple states. Baker received a 75-year prison sentence. In 2018, Rhode Island State Police conducted the largest bust in state history, arresting 49 people, including Pagans members. Authorities seized 53 illegal guns, including a rocket launcher, plus large quantities of marijuana, crack cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine. The 12-month investigation involved the Rhode Island Attorney General's Office, ATF, and FBI. Today, the Pagans Motorcycle Club operates across at least 20 states and Puerto Rico. They remain active in California, Arizona, Nevada, Delaware, Florida, Kentucky, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, South Carolina, Virginia, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, West Virginia, and Washington State. Unlike the Hells Angels, Bandidos, and Outlaws who established international chapters, the Pagans remained focused on American expansion, particularly the East Coast corridor. They considered expanding into Canada in 2011, meeting with the Rock Machine Motorcycle Club in New Brunswick. But by 2018, they abandoned those plans. Pagan member Andrew Chef Glick cited Canada's strict anti-biker laws and the Canadian Hells Angels' exceptional violence. He stated publicly that being a one-percenter in Canada was more dangerous than in the United States. The mother club still numbers exactly 13 members. Membership requirements remain strict. Males must be at least 21 years old and own Harley-Davidson motorcycles.